Hey teacher friends, it is Monica Genta here, and we are rolling out another super fun episode of the Teacher Vlog. Today I am welcoming Trevor Muir, who is a teacher, content creator, and storyteller from Michigan. He is truly an incredible guy who I am pumped to have on the show, who's bringing you 2 tips on how to create super meaningful service projects in your classroom. Guys, I'm telling you, he is an incredible storyteller, and he tells one in this episode that gave me goosebumps. You're not gonna wanna miss it. Now, at the end of the episode, stick around, because speaking of storytelling, I've got a couple ideas that you're not gonna wanna miss on getting amazing stories in your life to help you crush it in the classroom. But for now, let's get this episode rolling with my friend, Trevor Muir. To be with my friend Trevor. We had the opportunity to meet last spring, actually, in Nashville, and he is a fellow author and totally doing great things for teachers. How's it going, man?
Going good, Monica. How are you doing?
I'm super great, and this is a conversation that I've wanted to have with you for a long time, because you are putting out such great content for teachers in really meaningful and captivating ways. And so to get you here and talking 2 tips on actually creating almost like service learning and service projects in your classroom is something that I know that other teachers are going to eat up. So why don't you go ahead and just get into it and share your first tip?
I think that we need to tell really awesome stories in our classroom. So when I say tell stories, I think students need to be a part of ongoing developing stories. And I think that any great story has to have conflict. Something has to disrupt or unsettle whoever's in the story to where they want to go into action and do something about it. And so with students, I think we have to make the problems that they're solving in the classroom more than just getting good grades or making the teacher happy or parent happy. I think it's got to be problems that really matter to them.
Yeah.
And so my first tip is that we have to bring the community in, and we have to leave the walls of our classroom sometimes, and that's in any content area class.
Mm-hmm. I love your thought process on the problem part, because if we're not solving a problem as a teacher, then what are we really doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, for my students, I wanted them to write stories. That was in the Common Core. They've got to create stories, all this kind of thing. And so instead of just writing a story for me, I made some calls, and I called a retirement home in town and found that there's a lot of World War II veterans who are still with us who no one's ever heard their story. Mm-hmm. And if you know, World War II veterans are kind of dying right now quickly, and we've got to do something about it. And so we pitched that problem to my students. There's a lot of World War II heroes in our community, and we can do something about capturing their story. Mm-hmm. And from there, students are, learning the elements of writing stories and learning how to interview and all this. And then we went to the retirement home, and we actually heard their stories. We filmed their stories. We created documentaries with their stories. We did something with it. And we put this big event on where we honored the World War II vets. Where we honored the World War II veterans.
Everyone's calling you right now.
Yeah, come on now. So don't you know I'm doing something really amazing right now? I'm talking to some incredible people. So anyway, long story short, we did this awesome project, and it was world changing. And my kids felt like they made a difference in the world because they did. And it wouldn't have happened if we just stayed in the classroom, right? It wouldn't have happened if I just read whatever they wrote and put a grade on it. Mm-hmm. Instead, you're serving World War II veterans. Yeah. And this starts with reaching out and asking the community to be a part of the awesome stuff we're doing in school.
Yeah. And mutually beneficial too. I am confident that the people that you interviewed found that so meaningful on their own level. I love that.
So. Well, and let me tell you this, we tried for years to get my wife's grandpa to do this. He never really wanted to share his World War II story, even though he has an incredible one. And then finally, 2 springs ago, we got him to do it. Mm-hmm. And the students sat there and they heard his whole story, and it's incredible, and it blew everybody away. And the whole family was there getting to experience their dad and grandpa telling the story. And then that night he had a stroke.
Oh my
God. And
gosh.
he never spoke clearly again. He could never tell a story again. And it happened the night of the interview. And so as tragic as that is, how beautiful is that? That my
like
14-year-old
goosebumps.
students.
Yep.
Yeah. And the
wow.
students realize that your writing, your storytelling can really serve a purpose in this world. And here's a tangible way of demonstrating that. And I think that we can do this with any class. I think math classes, we can do budgeting and work with homeless shelters. I think science classes, we can go and pick invasive species out in the woods, and we can talk to the county commission and organize big events at the parks, and all these ways we can reach out to the community and make it bigger than just the walls of our classroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally. And that kind of goes into, I think, your second tip revolving around like service. So we're out there and we're doing these things. Like, what's the next step?
Yeah. So I read this amazing and just intriguing body of research that shows that when students are engaged in service learning, so that means they're serving somebody, they're using their empathy, they're working beyond themselves while they're learning content. So while they're doing that, they're learning empathy. They're learning to take care of others. They're learning hard work and leadership and collaboration and all this work that goes into service projects. But there's also a body of research that shows that they're not only doing all that, they're also excelling more in academic content.
Yeah.
So when we have kids in history class interviewing World War II veterans, or we have kids in math class serving the homeless shelter, whatever it is, that engagement that comes from them working for somebody else carries over into the content work. It makes them do better at geometry. It makes them do better at English or whatever it is. And I think that's really interesting. So my tip is find ways for your students to serve in core academic classes.
Yes.
Right?
Totally. No, I'm totally picking that up. I think that, like, a school is just a building until the people inside it decide that we have to go outside the walls and create something bigger. And I think what you're saying is, I think people think like these service projects have to be this enormous thing and you got to get all this money and you got to get all these people involved. Like, these small like opportunities outside of the classroom can have such meaningful impacts.
Yeah, and another thing, I mean, as we also think of service learning as it's got to be a service learning class.
Yeah.
Or it's got to be for community service hours, or it's something that you do other than your content classes. And it's like, no, I think we need to be doing service in biology, right? Like, and not just because we want to make the world better, even though I think that's the number one reason we do service.
Absolutely.
But it's a strong number two reason is it makes you do better at biology class. It makes you a stronger academic learner because the engagement carries over. So,
and I think that too, then people start building relationships with each other outside of the walls of the classroom and start seeing people's unique skills and strengths, and like the ripple effect on something like that is monumental, no doubt.
Yeah, and just think about what it does for your school. It shows the community that your school isn't just an academic institution. It's actually a core part of the community.
Yeah.
Right? It's doing something beyond, I mean, academic stuff's great, but it's also doing all these other things. And when you do service projects, it's letting people know that.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. If you could leave us with one final thought, what would that be?
I just like saying thank you to teachers. You do such amazing work. And whether we know it or not, the impact we play on a student's life and their ongoing story is so monumental. And often we don't find out what we actually have done for students, and we might not ever with a lot of kids, but the truth is teachers have a tremendous impact on the kids and the world.
Yeah.
And so I just like to say thank you for that.
Perfect. I love that. I could listen to Trevor talk forever. He has this special gift of using words in really meaningful ways, and God, I love that guy so much. If you've never heard him speak, not only do you need to check out some of his YouTube videos, but he does a lot of great, amazing live events. You should probably stalk him a little bit. Now, at the beginning of the episode, I said that you would want to stick around so you could learn more about stories. Not only am I an author of a couple of books, but so is Trevor. Let me give you 3 book ideas so you can read about stories from other teachers to help you crush it in the classroom. You gotta check out Trevor's book called The Epic Classroom. It is available on Amazon, and I'm telling you, it is a must read. Additionally, you can check out Game Changers or 180 Days of Awesome on my website, which are 2 additional ways to help you create meaningful stories based off of enriching educational ideas. Guys, if you enjoyed this episode with Trevor, make sure you're giving him a shout out on social media. Make sure you're sharing this episode, liking and subscribing so more and more teachers are gaining momentum to help them crush it in the classroom. No matter what type of week you are having, remember, you got this. See you, friends.